Sitting with me right now are trainers in sales from all over the world. I think there are 4 different continents here tonight represented in one of the most amazing panels that we could possibly imagine. I am just so excited and so humbled because if you're a salesperson and you're feeling the extraordinary burden right now of life and the universe and everything and what's happening in the world, these guys are going to help you just take a breath and start to see the light, because there really is hope and there really is an opportunity right now for salespeople, no matter where you are around the world. We're going to start by going all the way to the United Kingdom. Julie, what are you saying to your clients right now to reassure their sales team? Because let's face it, unless you're selling toilet paper or sanitizer, it's a really, really tough life right now. So how are you reassuring your sales team? And what is the biggest skill that you feel that they should be learning right now?
So the biggest thing that we're sort of saying to sales teams over here is to keep positive and keep going. But it's being creative, and let me explain what I mean by that. Being creative is looking at other industry sectors, target markets that are still busy. You know, we've got certain target markets that are shut down, but look at in the UK, logistics, food manufacture, they're still very strong. So can you refocus yourself into other areas? The other thing is to look at your product, look at your offering. You know, can you adapt that? What else can you do? Can you go online with this? What else can you sell? So things like that we're having conversations with. And the last one that I just want to put on the table with this is keep talking to your customers, not emailing, but talking. Now, you may not get any sales at this point, but it is all about keeping those relationships really, really strong and tight. Because when we come out of this, you'll be able to hit the ground running with people that you built those relationships. So that's kind of what I'm advising in the UK.
Thank you, Julie. I'm going to stick with you for one quick question again, if that's all right. You mentioned this ability to potentially shift and possibly move into a different state. How easy or difficult is that? I know it's a big question.
Yeah, so let me give you an example. Recruitment in the UK has just fallen off a massive cliff. Part of my business, I have a sales recruitment team, but instead of sitting down and sort of crying, what we've done is we shifted and looked at what businesses are still working. So we're sort of looking at logistics, for example. Logistics are recruiting, retail is recruiting. So we're actually focusing our attention on that. I had another client in with me on Friday. They're sort of a manufacturing business, and they've shifted their sites away from their normal target market and really shifted into other areas. Again, they're thinking about what target markets are still really busy, and I think that's a really important thing to do.
Thank you, Julie. So the 2 big things I've taken from that you just mentioned is, 1, talk to your clients and physically talk to them. That is a really, really good idea.
Yeah,
and second of all, sit down, and have a strategy discussion and say, okay, how can we, I don't like to use the word pivot, but adapt might be a better word.
Yeah, adapt, yeah.
That's great advice, Julie. Yeah. Thanks. We'll come back to you again shortly. G'day, Bruce in Australia. Wow, good to have you on board as well. So I wanted to chat to you a little bit about the kind of business to consumer sales. You know, if you're selling kitchens or cars or houses and you're selling directly to the consumer in what normally is a face-to-face environment, what advice do you have for those sales guys? I mean, they're so used to seeing the customer to close the deal. Should they also just give up and go home, or do you have some positivity and just help them feel that there is opportunity in this new world?
Yeah, thanks, Scotty. Firstly, as we've heard, communicate. Just keep the communications open with your customers. Let them know you're there. It's going to be as uncomfortable for your customers as it is for you. So you're not the only one that's not used to this. You're not the only one that's not sure how to navigate through this. Your customers aren't sure either. So they don't know what to expect. A couple of the notes I wrote down for tonight were, you need to let the customer know what this new journey is going to look like. The way that you're going to deal with them, the way that you're going to approach them, the way that you're going to help them solve their problems Let them know how you're going to do that so they know what to expect. I guess the one advantage in B2C over business to business is that with B2C, we don't have a third party that we have to sell. So making that journey clear for the customer is a bit easier because you can be direct to the decision makers, whoever's involved. And normally it's one or two. But ask them how you can help them. Say, look, this is a bit unusual. You're feeling a bit uncomfortable. How can I help you? How would you like me to be able to help you? And get them on board, get their buy-in, and then all of a sudden those buying walls, the sales walls will go down, and they know that you're here to help them. Be aware that your window of opportunity to make that sale, to engage with the customer, to build the rapport, to do all those things is now a lot smaller. When you're face-to-face, generally people will give you a lot more time if you're building good rapport and you're making those connections. Those windows are a lot smaller over the phone or video, what we're doing now. So you have to have your strategy really clearly defined. You need to have what I call your sales roadmap, or the journey that you're going to take your customer on. You need that really, really well defined so that you can signpost for the customer where you're going. That starts by being well prepared. Do your homework so you know how you can help the customer. Anticipate their needs so that you can get straight in and ask the right questions. How can I help you? What are you struggling with? How would you like me to be able to solve your problems and issues? Tell me what your fears are. And if you can anticipate what some of those might be, then you can get straight to their hot buttons, their pain points a lot quicker. And they know that you're there to genuinely support them, help them solve their problems. You're not just another salesperson making a routine, robotic sales call and being an annoying salesperson.
You sound confident that the sales process can still take place and that you still can be quite effective. And I know it's a big question because there's so many different types of business to consumer sales industries out there. But you know, what about from a mental perspective? You weren't at home. You came to work. You came to the office. You might have visited people at home, at their homes. Now you're stuck in your home. Like, where would you start? How do you just make that mental adaptation and go, well, no one's walking onto my used car lot. You know, what do I do? What would you say right now that if you are in that sort of B2C sales environment, what should you do to make that mindset shift?
You're still at work. Get up, have a routine. You get up, you have a shower, you have a shave, you have breakfast, you get ready, clock on, have professional work attire, do nothing different. Just the location changes. Your routine stays the same. Have a coffee break at a certain time that you'd normally do at work. Have your lunch break at that certain time if you've got that sort of routine. But your mindset is that, hey, I'm still at work. If you need to put a sign on your door, my new workplace, whatever it be, but switch on that this is not your home, this is your workplace, and start a new routine.
Yeah, that's a really good advice. Just you're still at work and don't change that routine. I would absolutely agree with that, Bruce. Thank you very much. Susan, all the way in Canada, where a few snowflakes are falling. Question for you is, I am process driven. Now, at the best of times, salespeople don't like to be process driven. Now, there's a bit of a change in terms of the way we have to do business, a lot more online. Things have shifted a little bit. Now, I guess my question is, in this kind of, I'm going to call it the new world, hopefully we will go back to the old world, but for now it's a new world of selling. Do you still need to have those same processes? Do you need to have processes at all? Or should you be even more process driven than ever before?
In my opinion, absolutely more process driven than any before. And like it or not, we cannot call it a new world, but for the next while, it is a new world. And I think it's more important to be process driven in this new world for no other reason that your customers are going to expect it. if you really want to continue to sell when times are changing, your customers still need to trust you more than they ever did before. Now, how do I define trust? Trust is simple. From a customer's perspective, they need to know that you're going to do exactly what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And bottom line is, good times or trying times, they're not going to buy from you until they trust you. So when things are changing, from the way your relationship is changing with them, they still have to be able to trust you before they'll buy from you. And it's funny how you say that, Scott, that salespeople don't tend to be process driven. Well, the best salespeople I've ever worked with tend to be very process driven, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why it makes them the best salespeople. So it's important. Okay, so if I'm dealing with you, you've got to think about it from your customer's perspective. If I used to be able to walk into your store and pick up something, how do I do that now? Do I walk into your virtual store? How do I place an order? How do I pay for the order? How do I contact customer support? You're working from your office, so is your service department. How do I contact them? How am I going to be supported? You need to think and plan this through all the way from point A to point B for no other reason that your customers expect that. You need to reassure them that you can still deliver. That's another thing. Delivery, okay? How are you going to deliver? What time frame are you going to deliver? And I guess when it comes down to pretty much, and I've been through this before, I've been in this business a lot of years. It's no different than when we went selling office equipment from the fax machine the first time. Is a signature on a fax contract valid? How do I get that signature? How do I place an order? What paperwork do I need? Who do I send it to? How do I send it to? All these processes, if they're defined, your customer will trust you to do what you say you're going to do when you say anything can be sold virtually. Let's face it, we're doing that right now. Anything can be done. Anything that was done face to face can be done virtually. The bottom line is you have to plan how that's going to happen from A to Z.
Yeah.
Great Canadian, A to Z. Okay. So I guess keeping in mind immediately is the only difference between a good idea and a great idea is implementation. So think of it from your customer's perspective is how are you going to implement the new way of doing business?
That's absolutely great. And when you mentioned that bit about the great sales trainers are always phenomenal at processes, and that stands them apart, I completely agree. So yeah, Susan, and I really appreciate what you said. And I want to, if I can condense it again, it's really about saying, guys, I'm still here, and you can still rely on me. And that's the message. If you're going to give a message, we have the processes in place. We will make sure they get delivered. The goods are still there. The process is still happening. The world might change, but our processes might change, but our reliability is still there.
Absolutely. And I think it was Bruce that says it's the expectations. So you have to manage those expectations. Okay. They may need to change, but you need to manage those expectations of not only you, your external customers, but also your internal customers too, your whole team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Susan, thank you very, very much. Moving across to Mick. Mick, wow, also extraordinarily experienced sales trainer with I don't know how many decades under your belt. And once again, I'm not saying you're old, Mick. I'm not saying you're old. I'm just saying you're really, really, really experienced. And, you talk a lot about attitude. And tell us the importance right now of a salesperson's attitude during this time.
Well, Scott, I guess it's pretty obvious, but to all my new colleagues out there, and a very, very warm welcome to all of you. It's really great to meet you, by the way. I don't have to remind these guys that basically attitude is everything. Now, just to share with my colleagues out there, one of the things that we focus on in all of our programs, so we focus on leadership, sales, and customer experience development programs. And our kickoff for all of these programs, and it's an intense kickoff, is all around developing personal well-being. You can give every salesperson, current and future, all the skills and all the knowledge and all the know-how on how to sell. But if those people are not in a good space in their own personal life, and we go through a thing called the wheel of life, that wheel of life, okay, is going to have a massive impact on these salespeople's attitudes. And I don't have to tell you that if your attitude's wrong, then nothing else is going to come right. As I said, you can be the most skilled person, you can have 20 years of experience under your belt, you can have all the know-how, you can have what people used to call the gift of the gab, etc. But if the mind is not where it should be, then everything else is going to fall down with it. And we all know that the most powerful thing in a human being's being is the mind. And especially now with what the world is going through. If we can help people to develop and more importantly, maintain this positive mindset, then they are going to sell, because they're going to come across with an incredibly inspirational, passionate, enthusiastic form of behavior. And guys, let's be honest, at the end of the day, apart from product knowledge and industry knowledge and all those good things, what are we all being judged on as salespeople? We're being judged not on whether we've got degrees or not. We're not being judged on whether we live in 7-bedroomed homes or that we drive a Porsche. Nobody judges us on that, not as salespeople. What we're judged on is our behavior. And attitude has a direct impact on one's behavior. And that behavior has a direct impact on how we influence other people in a positive or negative way. So for me, in these difficult times, attitude is absolutely paramount. And yeah, we've just got to make sure that as a training organization, that message comes across, not just to teach people how to sell in these difficult times, but how to keep them motivated, how to keep them inspired, and also with a lot of belief and hope. And attitude's going to do all of that and come across to the current and prospective customers. That's my take on it.
Mick, that's fantastic. And I know for a fact, and I don't like to speak for him, but our next trainer and speaker, Ian Stevens, is going to wholeheartedly agree with that one, and I'm sure we'll hear from him in a second. But before I jump on to you, Ian, back to you, Mick. You know, listening to you and the previous trainers as well has suddenly made me just taken all that information and suddenly made me realize something. And it's just actually, I cannot believe it's only dawned on me right now. The great sales trainers a month ago are still going to be the great sales trainers a month from now during this crisis. It makes sense, because like you say, the attitude, we've got to realize that, you know, if you're going to be that great trainer, or you're on the cusp of being that great trainer, it should not make a difference where you are now. For little pieces of what the other trainers have said, you know, Julie talked about pivoting. Bruce talked a lot about, you know, asking for how can I help you, the personality, that sort of thing. So you've really made me realize that, Mick, and I just want to finish off with another quick question on that, and that is like, do you agree with what I've just said, but what do you think over the next 3 to 6 months is going to make a great sales trainer, a great sales person, not trainer, person?
We're talking about trainers, Scott. You know, we've got to take it further and say, well, a good salesperson now, or a great salesperson now, needs to be a great salesperson in time to come. So again, from my perspective, it's up to companies and us as training organizations, and it's a massive opportunity. This whole thing that's happened in the world is a huge opportunity for us to really convince people that, you know, this may sound crazy, but we're not out there to try and make, you know, money from these people and so on. Certainly we're not. We love making money, but that's not our purpose. Our purpose in our organization is one thing and one thing only. How on earth do we help people to become more successful businesses, and how do we help their people to become more efficient and more successful, so that we develop this high level of professionalism, seamless level of professionalism throughout their organizations. And again, we can give all the training and that type of thing that we want, but if the attitude's not right, then all of us as trainers, our belief is that we should be focusing big time on developing a positive mindset and helping companies and people themselves to maintain that positive mindset, because that's a difficult thing, is maintaining it. You know, you can become very, very positive for an hour or two, but to maintain it 24/7 is the real challenge, particularly now.
Agreed. Thank you, Mick. And of course, you're going to need those processes that Susan mentioned as well to do that. So now jumping to Mick was in South Africa, by the way. So there's another continent, Africa. Thanks again, Mick. Jumping back to Australia. Australia's a big country, so on the East Coast as well, we have Ian Stevens. You know, it is a big country, it is a big world, and many salespeople tend to travel. If it's not just in their cars, which also is starting to shut down. I mean, look, if lockdown takes place, you're not going to be able to drive, but certainly now overseas and domestic travel is completely falling apart. Ian, for the salesperson that is used to just being on the road and has that go-getter, I'm off to the next meeting, I'm off to the next deal, how do you handle this situation?
Well, I think it's absolute key that we adapt, and I'll come back to that question in a moment, if I may, Scotty. I just want to make a quick link to what Mick was talking about then with attitude. I'm a master prac in NLP, which quickly, for those who don't know about it, neuro-linguistic programming. So what's going on above the neck, between the ears, neuro, is going to have a huge impact on what you say and do. Mick was talking about that in terms of your attitude and your behaviour, and that will show up in terms of, as Mick was saying, the results that you're influencing and the environment you're creating. So, you know, I'm a great believer that, you know, 80% of a salesperson's success in this new evolving world is kind of in the head, you know, and the rest is above the neck, right? So it's critical that we really keep ourselves in a great state and maintain that consistent attitude that Mick was talking about. I also want to make a little bit of a link back to something Teresa said about Teresa, however you say it locally there, but you were talking about.
I think it was Susan. Probably Susan.
Oh, was it? Okay. In terms of refocus onto a different target market. So
Julie.
food, logistics.
That was Julie.
Okay, cool. Yeah, critical that people shift and shift fast. I talk about the SAM versus the TAM. So the TAM is the total available market, who's everyone that you could be doing business with. And then how do you get focused on the SAM, which is just the selected available market? Where do you want to play, which products into which market segments? And I think it is critical that every sales organisation out there in the world starts to really hone in on their SAM, their selected available market, which products into which segments, which markets, and there are lots of them, are a little immune to this virus, if you can excuse the pun, and that you can be assisting them to convert on the opportunity that's actually happening. So I thought that was a brilliant point. And Bruce, I just love the spirit of, you know, how can we serve needs to be where you're coming from. I've got to say, I'm just quietly a little disappointed in some of my colleagues in the speaking and sales training industry in Australia, because I can see them out there trying to sell what they've got to their customers at the moment, when I'm taking a very different approach, and that is just to reach out to my inner circle of clients, and I would be suggesting every sales professional does this. You've all got those accounts that generate 80% of the revenue. So, you know, it's really coming from a place, as Bruce was suggesting, of how can I help, how can I serve? So I'm very big on staying right away from what I call sell to, where it's us trying to sell our products, whatever they are, to our customer base. At the moment, you've got to be really big on creating what I call a buy from environment. And the best sales professionals do exactly that all the time, and that's not going to change. They don't sell anything. I mean, boy, you should see some of the, you know, the bosses of industry and their white their faces drain white when I say the best salespeople don't sell anything. They sell a heap, but they don't do it in a sell-to way. They do it in an environment where the client wants to buy from you. And trust me, this too shall pass. And I'm really encouraging my clients and their sales reps to get themselves into a space where they are trusted, as some of our sales trainers online have been saying tonight, and that when this does turn, there's only one place they'll be coming to do business, because you've reached out, you've served them during a critical time of need. So, you know, if you're not already taking that tack, then please back off, at least for the next couple of weeks, on trying to sell. It's actually about how do you serve, and then the sales will just flow naturally. So I thought that was a brilliant point. So I just wanted to make a couple of links there. Back to your question, how do you adapt given you're just not traveling as much? They're used to traveling. It's been their world. You know, my brother works for a timber company here in Australia, and his typical week is making 20 or 30 visits to clients out and about in his car throughout country Victoria here in Australia. Well, he's just been told, they all have, you know, you're not allowed to call on us. No reps, no account managers. Don't come into our factories, don't knock on our doors, just stay away. And so it's, if I could give a couple of tips in that space, first of all, the biggest mindset skill that the world needs at the moment is flexibility. You know, and the older I get, the more I realise that flexibility is an absolute key. You really have to be flexible. You know, you have to be like, you know, I say to people, this is Aussie humour, but I say to people down here under that, you know, you got to be like the bloke who wanted to elope with a woman on the 7th floor, but his ladder only reached the 3rd floor. So he eloped with a woman on the 3rd floor. Same outcome. You know, he ended up married. Just be flexible and roll with the times. And that's exactly what you've got to do here. I'm also a big believer in just smiling. You know, I understand what goes on with the subconscious mind and the brain, and when you just do the act of smiling physically, as lots of the trainers online, everyone here would know, that just releases endorphins into your bloodstream. You don't actually need to inject yourself with something. You just got to smile and laugh. And I think humour is a great way of coping with tragedy and the sort of things that are rolling out. So learn to smile. Fake your brain into releasing some endorphins. Just focus on what's the one thing you can do today to build a stronger relationship with your customers with that spirit of serving. And above all else, just be flexible and roll with what's happening, because it's changing every single day here down in Australia. I know we're a little behind where some parts of the world are, but literally the rules of engagement are changing every 24 hours. So flexibility is the absolute key. I would think it's time for every sales professional to learn how to engage online, virtually, via your meetings and presentations. And, you know, it'll be Zoom meetings, it'll be go-to webinars, it'll be all done via virtual over the next kind of 3 to 6 months. You've got to learn how to have some influence and impact when you're online. And there's a trap in that, because online meetings tend to lean towards getting people habitually into presentation mode. And when you are in presentation mode about your products, your services, what you can do to help, you naturally start coming across in sell-to mode, even though you're not realising it. So, you know, something I'm big on, I very quickly, I teach this NASA philosophy, NASA, needs, agree, solution, agreement. It's just it's a basic consultative approach. It's the IP I've created around stuff that's has been around longer than Adam and Eve. But consult with your clients. So whenever I'm talking to a potential client nowadays, and I coached my brother in this last night, was still stay true to the NASA philosophy of get a conversation happening about their needs, their issues, their challenges, then get them to agree to what those major issues are before you start talking about the solutions you've got. Now you're setting up a beautiful buy from environment where you're showing you've got an answer to some of the problems they've got, and you'll get the final A in NASA with agreement to move forward. So it doesn't stand for National Aeronautics Space Academy or agency or administration, whatever it is. It's now about, you know, really doing a nice consultative approach during your online meeting, your exploratory meeting, your chat with them, because boy, this is the online forum pulls you into presentation mode when actually you want to stay in consultative mode. So that's something I would give a tip there. Rapport building skills. You know, it's a basic foundation skill. It's already been mentioned here on this panel discussion. Take your rapport building levels on the phone and on meetings like this to another level. And I think that involves using a little bit of humour just to lighten things up a little. You know, I've already mentioned it's very powerful in lightening things up and using a little bit of humour. But look, on the upside, I think there will be less travel, and that is going to force people to look at a new model. You know, I know in the last week, I have already got some things done I've been planning to do for months, but haven't had the time to do it because I'm on the road, I'm travelling, I'm calling on clients. We're going to have time, and I think we'll come out of this with a higher acceptance of online virtual meetings, exploratory discussions via a Zoom chat, rather than having to necessarily turn up, interrupt their day. So I totally get that face-to-face is always a better rapport builder, but I think we will come out of this with some really good productivity uplifts. So look, that's my sanguine approach, you know, staying positive during an absolute crisis, but I think there will be upside towards the end. So I hope that's the value.
Yeah. Thank you, Ian. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you made so many great points in that, especially around the importance of segmentation, for example, how important that is. You know, don't be desperate, don't come across as being desperate at this time. And you can already feel a lot of salespeople out there. You're getting emails, you're getting messages. You can feel that level of desperation. Stay consultative and smile. Absolutely. Before I jump onto Paul, you know, Julie, if you're still there, I'd like to quickly just touch on what Ian alluded to, and this is this power of being on the phone. So Julie, if you are still there, I'd like to hear, because I know you do a lot of work on the phone, and I'd like you to just quickly illustrate the importance of telephone skills at this time.
Yeah, I think so. Telephone skills in the sales process are always key, because 75% of how you sound on the phone is how people perceive you and how people will relate to you. So I want to pick up on various people that have been talking about attitude. So this smiling, this positive attitude is really, really key when we're selling on the telephone. I think the other thing to do is, Ian has said, it's about building the relationships, and it's not selling at them. It is about, I talk about on a whip, needs, wants, issues and problems. If you can establish those, and then you can present a solution to that problem, you are not selling, you're helping. And the language that I train my people to do is, it's all about how can we help you? This is what we do and how we can help you. So, you know, telephone sales, we can still do it, but we've got to stand out from the crowd. And we've got to sound different in the tone of voice, but also it's what you're saying to the customer. You know, you don't want to go through and go, I wanted to talk to you about sales training. It's all about give them a value. I call it the WIFM factor. What WIFM factor can you give when you're doing an opening statement? So for me, it's sort of about, you know, talking about, I'll give you an example. If I'm telesales on a cold call talking about sales training, it's not I want to talk to you about sales training. It's, you know, I provide sales training guaranteed to increase your revenue. There's my hook. And then the sort of fact finding from there. So it still can be done. It's taking a consultative approach. It's about the positive attitude that a lot of us have been talking about today. And it's all about that understanding needs, wants, issues and problems. That's kind of my take on telemarketing and telephone sales.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. In fact, I'm quite looking forward to one day actually bringing you guys together for another conversation where we specifically talk about each of your processes. Because you've all got processes, but there's a lot of overlap and the thinking is so similar, because great sales trainers at the end of the day have specific key messages. And as Mick alluded to before, you know, and also as Bruce mentioned with regards to how can I help you, which has been reiterated several times. I would love to see you guys all come together and say, well, this is the approach that I use, and some of you guys use acronyms and some of you guys don't. I don't think that's been done before, but I think that would be fascinating as an experiment to see the overlap. So Julie, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, but are you ready for all of us to come together though, Scott?
Oh, I don't know. I am. I don't know. Let's see if the listeners are. I mean, I think it'll be amazing. I think it'll be I think it'll be a cracking exercise. Well, there's a bit of gin there as well.
Yay!
Absolutely. So, right, let's move on to Paul. And you know, we talked a little bit about the B2C stuff. Now we want to talk a little bit about the, you know, selling into corporates, because corporates are a weird one. I mean, let's face it. They seem to be so tough and so strong and able to be the too big to fail. But if something goes wrong, they tend to freak out so much more than everybody else. And normally the sales cycle is very long, and it's the dream of a salesperson to shorten that sales cycle. Paul Loxton, all the way in Singapore/Indonesia. Don't know which one you're in now, mate. You always seem to be moving around in Southeast Asia. Tell us, Paul, from a sales cycle perspective, trying to get into those big corporates, how do you do that now in today's world?
Okay, well, it's good to be here and great to listen to everybody else sharing their views and suggestions. So thanks very much for inviting me, Scott, and thanks everybody else. It is a different ball game in the corporate world at the moment, and there's a lot of panic going on. There's no doubt about that. What would have normally been a relatively lengthy sales cycle has reduced to almost instant. I had an example this afternoon where I was contacted for something, and they need me basically to, you know, confirm that A, I can do it, and B, give them the proposal and everything else tomorrow. And that would have normally been a very protracted number of conversations, because, you know, decisions being made, this is what we need now, let's get it. Yeah. So there's opportunities there, but there's only going to be opportunities there for those of us who are visible and have either got existing relationships, or if we haven't already got them, are taking steps to establish those relationships. Yeah, even in these tough times where people are busy with other things, we still can go in and establish new relationships. So to answer your question directly, what is happening to the sales cycle? It's moving from kind of here to much shorter. And so we need to be taking advantage of that, and we need to be responding very, very quickly.
That's amazing news. I mean, the news coming from you there sounds very positive. Is there a secret to that? I mean, tell us a little bit more. I mean, I guess we're all asking the question, you know, how did you do it? How and why did that deal come so quickly? And how can that be mirrored by other salespeople out there who would love to get a couple of deals under their belt just to feel good about themselves in this time of crisis?
Okay. I think what is happening, Scott, is that in a lot of areas, companies are putting the blocks on, stopping. So they're not proceeding with deals that they would normally have progressed with. Where they identify a need for now, that need, as far as they're concerned, is an urgent need. That's what I'm saying. So there are many situations where companies are not proceeding. Now, I'm a great fan of what a lot of the guys have been talking about, which is establishing needs. What I'm also a believer in at this stage, and it's something that I've done, and it's something that generated this particular inquiry today, is I'm leading with some solutions. So normally what I would have done is I would have gone in and I would have talked about what a company's trying to do, and, you know, let's talk about how I can support you in doing that. What I'm doing much more now, B2B, is I'm going in saying, hey guys, this is what you need now, given the current situation you're in. And I'm being as specific as that. And I'm not giving them too many options. I'm giving them 2 or 3 options on what could be something that they could put in place. So they can actually see and kind of taste and feel a solution. And, you know, some of that's going to fall and it's going to be on stony ground. It's not going to be stuff that people pick up because they're too busy and too kind of traumatized with everything else that's going on around them. But some of that's going to land. You know, if you've really thought about it and you've identified what those companies really do need. You're not just trying to sell anything. You're actually thinking, what can I do to help them? And you're going in and telling them that.
Yeah.
Then some of that is going to be listened to, and that's where you're going to get your people coming back to you saying, hey, you said you can do this, we want it, when can we have it by?
That is hugely exciting. Oh, what a couple of brilliant points there, and also really, really encouraging as well. So, yeah, a couple of things that I want to touch on with what you just said there, Paul. And first of all is this notion that if you work, the deals that you would not otherwise have been working on, go back to them now. They might be kind of just bubbling up there, but they're not quite at the top. Go after them. And I think that's huge. And the second thing that you just said, which is also just absolutely wonderful, is go to them as the trusted advisor who's highly credible and tell them what they need. I mean, obviously be diplomatic about it, and there's a lot of skills around that process, but tell them what they need. You are there to help them. You're in a credible situation. They are struggling at the moment, and you can really help them. And you've actually shifted your sales approach slightly as a result. Have I summarized that correctly, Paul?
I think you probably have. I think that's a pretty fair summary there, Scott. You're introducing this question of going back and revisiting deals that are maybe on the back burner. Sure, have a look at those. My feeling is, however, that the world has probably moved away from those deals. And, given the scenario that businesses are now in, you're probably going to need to be introducing new instant solutions to things. And that is a little bit of a different mindset, I think, for most of us who are very much into needs-based selling. It's kind of twisting it around a little bit, telling them what they need rather than finding out from them what they need. And that may be a little bit arrogant. I think we need to be sure that we are, really adding value when we're telling them what we need, that we've really thought it through. But I believe in many circumstances, we're in a position to do that. As a specialist in what we provide, the service we provide, if we package it in the right way and they can see the benefits, I think that there's opportunities there, definitely.
Yeah, that's thank you, Paul. Really good. And sure, there's some great advice. And once again, you guys have all been so encouraging, which is, I think, the most important thing right now. And absolutely spectacular pieces of advice, guys. Thank you so much. So that was Paul Loxton. Now we're going to hop over to Dan in New Jersey. And Dan, wow, there is a lot of knee-jerk reaction going on. I'm sure we've all faced it. You get that email, you get the dreaded phone call, or if they're lucky to even phone you at all, it's that knee-jerk reaction that says, "I'm sorry, we're canceling everything," and it's based out of fear right now. And Dan, tell us, if you're a salesperson and you're getting those calls and emails from clients who are canceling, how do you win them back? How do you prevent that from happening? What do you do?
Well, you pretty much nailed it. There's so much hysteria going on. I mean, on behalf of the United States, the media is very culpable in this, creating this hysteria. It's killing the markets. We have governors throughout the different states that are, we're close to martial law in a few states, California, Illinois, New York. I get that we're trying to protect people and do different things, but it is really, really mass hysteria, and it's affecting everything. But getting back to your point, with businesses, salespeople, we're kind of in survival mode right now. And I think about my many years in working in radio when a client wanted to stop their schedule or pull back or what have you. And I think the best advice, if someone is reaching out to you and they want to completely stop what they're doing or what have you, I think the best thing to do is to try to at least keep them on board, even partially. If they're spending $10,000 a month with your company doing something, maybe we cut back a little bit. We need to convince them not to completely disappear off the map. We need to give them hope. We can, jump on a Zoom conference with them and educate them and teach them different ways for them to communicate with their existing clients, so they're not losing business, rather than completely disappear. I jumped in here a half hour into this conference, Scotty, and I wrote down a list of some things that salespeople can do from a self-growth, from a self-help perspective. So forgive me if I'm repeating some things that some of the others may or may have not have shared.
No problem, Dan. Can I just ask, I mean, if it's
Yeah.
possible, can you turn your camera on? I'm sure we'd love to see what you look like. If not, we understand, but it would be nice to see you if, hey, there we go. Dan from New Jersey. Absolutely, Dan, tell us. We'd like to hear them, even if it does reiterate some important points.
Okay. Yeah, so I was thinking about taking advantage of this time right now that we have. Obviously, what we're worried mostly about are our families. Here in America, 80% of everything is small businesses. And a lot of people go paycheck to paycheck. So obviously this is a big concern, but why not take advantage of the time that we have, that we're at home? You know, I don't know how much longer it'll be where they tell us that we can't even leave our town. I mean, it's kind of that severe right now here, at least on the East Coast. But some of the things that I'm thinking about is if there's an online course that you can take, or joining programs like the one we're doing right now. How about finishing those sales books that you always wanted to read, or you wanted to write your own book? Why not work on writing your book, finish it? Constantly educate yourself, keep your mind busy. Maybe you're working for another company, but you always wanted to be an entrepreneur and start your own business. This is a great time to start thinking about that, putting a business plan together. Read Think and Grow Rich. I think it's one of the greatest books ever written. It's the Bible in many ways, in my humble opinion. I've read it probably 5 times. Why not work on prospecting? Think about, picture, visualize things getting better, which I really believe they will. I think we're at least a month out, but visualize things getting better. Work on prospecting. Create these types of conferences with people. Be a giver. Offer things to people. And lastly, there's the power of positive thinking. You know, we can't, if we all just sink into the toilet and get negative, it's all going to collapse. We have to be positive. Whatever our strength is, whether it's God or family, our friends, we have to have a positive attitude about things. So in lieu of this meeting, I was thinking about self-help, and I was thinking about what can we do internally to keep our minds going and whatnot. So those are some of the things I wanted to share with you.
Thank you, Dan. And, I do understand where you're coming from. And a lot of the, especially corporate employees are feeling that pain at the moment. And they are, and it is, and it's awful. I mean, as a business, to have that experience, that knee-jerk reaction, where it's literally saying in 2 or 3 lines, sorry, we're canceling everything with you. And I know that, as sales trainers, and I know every single one of us has already experienced that and has jumped on it and done something about it. This is what we do. This is what we teach. We're experienced in this process. What would you say to somebody right now? And yeah,
Your mic's breaking up on you, Scotty. Can you say that again?
Am I back again, guys? Sorry, I lost you for a sec. Am I back?
Yeah. Yes.
Hi guys, sorry, it's Cherie here. Can you hear Scott now?
All right, guys. I think hopefully, can you just nod your heads if you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good. Well, I mean, look, guys. The fact that we're all being able to communicate like this across the world is testimony to human accomplishment, and that's a positive thing. And yeah, Dan, I agree. You've got to take this time because we've got time on our hands, and that reiterates what a lot of the other ladies and gents have said tonight. But what would you do right now? I mean, if you are a salesperson and you're not feeling in the best shape right now, you have just had that knee-jerk reaction of having cancellations on you. How do you prevent that from happening, or how can you deal with it?
That saying, sales is a Broadway show performed by a psychiatrist. I'm sure most of us have heard that saying before.
Yeah.
We need to talk our clients off of jumping off the ledge. We need to convince them that there is going to be hope, that things will get back to normal. And quite frankly, you know, it wouldn't be wise to stop what they're doing completely. You know, as a sales trainer, if I'm working with 12 salespeople in that company, how do we take this online? How can I hold their hand? How can I show them how to do this? And quite frankly, just communicating with one another shows hope. And, you know, we need to convince the people that have the power of the purse that this is the important thing to do. Keep the communication going, keep the educating going, keep the hope going. I know that doesn't translate into dollars necessarily, but we really got to hold people's hands.
Mm. That's good advice. We have that relationship, and we need to be seen. And like you said, you know, talking people off ledgers, and yeah, I mean, guys, this has been absolutely fantastic. And you know, we've heard from each one of you guys. I know you've all got a couple of other things to say. Susan would like to jump in. Susan, let's hear from you quickly.
Yeah, quickly. Wow, what a group! The advice that's coming out here is absolutely incredible. What I'd like to do is take a little bit more from the 30,000 foot level down to what a sales manager or sales rep can do immediately. Mm-hmm. Just so you know, I'm prefacing this with I'm a cancer survivor. And going through that every cancer treatment known to humankind, I was told that attitude was probably one of the reasons why I'm even able to be here today. So I want to, positive attitude, I can't underestimate as everybody said, that it starts with attitude. So here are some things that people can do with their sales teams and their people immediately. I've always recommended to sales reps, start your day and end your day calling a good customer, okay? For no other reason, just, hey, how are you? You know, how are you dealing with this? Reach out, connect with them, okay? In doing so, you want to do three things from a sales perspective. One is, are they a prospect today? Let's face it, many won't be. If they're not a prospect today, answer. If not, first, are they a real prospect? As Julie said, retarget. Two, if not a prospect, if a prospect, are they a prospect today? And if not today, then when? And develop a program immediately, a systematic approach of how often you will contact those prospects once as time goes on. Another great way, this what I call this hurry up and wait mode, the stress that Dan has talked about, and I hope that isn't a Pat's hat on your head, Dan. That's what, get referrals, okay? Another thing, I used to put a motivational quote every day.
Susan, sorry to interrupt, Susan. Just sometimes you're just fading in and out a little bit. I'm not sure if it's the headset.
Sorry, the whole world's
you were
online
perfect
today.
No, that's okay. You were perfect. As I said, I'm just hugely grateful that we're not stuck in our homes without the internet, because that would be worse. So, but you've been absolutely, you're back now. Yeah. Thank you.
Send out your team, start each and every day with a motivational quote, okay? I used to put it up on the sales board every day, and became known as the quote lady. That the reps look for them. In this day of remote, you can text them or you can email them to your team. I highly recommend that every sales team book time to get together face-to-face like this. When my business partner and I ran a national channel sales organization literally in Canada, coast to coast to coast, what I call Timbuktu, Canada. We did this every week, okay? And schedule it. Schedule FaceTime with everybody, and do so with your families as well, okay? I am living proof that laughter is the best medicine, okay? On our website, we share a daily sales joke, okay? If you want 75 of them, go to my website. There's 75 of the best sales jokes that I've compiled. Just, we have to make a conscious effort, and we have to do it literally with what people can do, not just on the 30,000 foot level, but on the day-to-day of what can be done to keep our attitudes positive. In North America, and again, it's that I'm not a Patriots fan.
We got that. We got that.
We're missing our sport, okay? And so we're becoming so media junkies, becoming news junkies, and it's all, sorry, as you say, whether it's mass hysteria or whatever, the news is all bad, okay? Turn it off. Turn it off. Have certain times of the day. Not listen to the I'm a firm believer of you only listen to the blues, you're going to get the blues, right? So put on some dancing music. I had a playlist of my top 10 songs treatment that I would literally, even though I could barely walk, I was dancing to that music. Put on, that'll get you in the right mindset, okay? Somebody said smiling. I used to end every and I still do, every post I do with keep smiling, okay? There's literally things day-to-day effort change mindset,
Yeah.
all right? And it all starts with leadership, all right? So if you're running a team, help them get through this, even if it is meaning turning off the news.
Yeah. Sorry, Susan. I'm trying not to interrupt because you're on such a great flow, but you're just coming in and out with the mic.
Sorry.
We got it.
It's the internet.
No, it's okay. But the most important thing is that we got your enthusiasm, we got the way you're feeling, we definitely got the sentiment. And you've started something here, Susan. So I would like to finish it with everybody now. So let's do that. Let's go through the panel now. Let's go one by one. Let's kick off with Julie. And let's ask ourselves a question, you know, from a practical perspective. If it's lead nurturing, I mean, where do you get the lead from? Let's potentially talk about that. You don't have to talk about all of these things, but where do you find leads? Where do you nurture them? And then how do you we talk a lot about what to do as a salesperson, but in terms of the kind of practical, I mean, as you guys know, we work together with you as manage3.com to work together with you guys to say, okay, we will help people reach out and make those initial connections. We will help people nurture the connections. And then you guys start to pick up and say, okay, now we started to get those connections nurtured. How do you start to close them? What I'd like to do is like you say, let's take it from 30,000 feet and very quickly, just in a quick one, 2 or 3 minutes each, guys, give us a couple of practical things people can do now, salespeople can do now to start kicking in that sales routine from home. Julie.
So how we do that sales routine. In the UK at the moment, and in sort of the local area where I am, there's a lot of networking online has popped up. So I am actually on a lot of networking events, still talking to people. So yeah, from our perspective, it's nurturing it that way. But if you get an inquiry, my best advice is to talk to people, phone them, not email them, phone them. So it's trying to be as normal as possible, I think, at this moment. I think we've all said this before, be as normal as possible. But yeah, investigate these online networking. They're all over LinkedIn. They're all over our local networks in the UK. So that's what I'm planning to do.
Yeah, good call. Did you see what I did there? Good call.
Ha
no, anyone? No, sorry. Terrible joke. Terrible joke. I get it. You guys know me. Every now and again, one of those guys slips out. Bruce, over to you, mate. Back in Australia. What's your message in terms of practicalities that sales guys can introduce right now?
Thanks, Scotty. Look, I think one thing that's come from this discussion from the beginning, and a thread that's come through for me, is positive mindset. It's how we think about things. It's how we think about ourselves, our customer, and what we're doing. So a couple of really, really quick points followed by a simple illustration. Firstly, understand that no matter who you're talking to at what stage of the sales process, it's not about you. Your customers don't care about you and your product and your solutions, what it is. They care about them and their problems and challenges. So make it about your customer. And when you're doing that, ask, don't tell. That's been another theme that's come through.
Yeah. Ask
the right questions, ask good questions, and let the customer know that you care about them and their outcomes, and they will start listening to you. And a really simple, practical thing that I teach everyone in almost every training room I'm in, and I do a few magic tricks, and I love using cards, and a lot of you guys may have seen this before. It's not new, but I teach everyone that sales is a numbers game. Now, we learn our skills to improve the numbers we play with, but in a deck of cards, there are 4 aces, and the aces represents a sale. The rest of the stuff we go through is the process. Conversations, presentations, whatever they might be that don't end in a result. But to remove that fear of failure, to continually put yourself in a really healthy mindset, there are 4 aces in every deck of cards. All you have to do to find them is to keep turning the cards. You stop turning the cards, you're not going to find the aces. Just keep going.
Yeah.
That takes away the fear.
Yeah. Yeah, great advice, Bruce. Keep turning those cards and finding those aces. Absolutely. So let's go on to Mick now. Mick, what's your take on this in terms of process now?
So, my side, and I must just say that for me personally, just for those who don't know, I've been running my business for 34 years. I've trained over 90,000 salespeople in South Africa. For me, with all this experience and knowledge that I've gained through interacting with other people, this particular session that we're having now, I have found incredibly motivating for me personally. A big message, sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional here. For me, the big message is for all of us to do this more frequently. I would like to see a setup like this, that we get together at least absolute maximum once a month, because in that time, I mean, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, all of us are going to come across some very, very different circumstances in our countries, within our customer bases. We're going to have different circumstances within our own companies. And I think it's absolutely vital that people like us can share this and so on. So Scott, thank you for putting this together, because for me, as I said, this has been an incredible experience for me. So for, again, what's the message you're going to put out for the sales teams and so on? The one thing that we haven't really got into in depth is this whole issue of relationship building. And you all know, we all know, that at the end of the day, credibility sells. And we all, people, they say, there's that old saying, people buy from people. Well, I kind of don't agree with that. What I do agree with is people buy from people that they like, that they trust, and they respect. And, the word trust comes out a lot, but we kind of seem to miss out a bit on the respect side. And how do you build respect as a salesperson and as a sales team? And that comes back to my point earlier when I started, is building the seamless level of professionalism. So I've got a big message that I'm putting across to our groups that we're still involved with going forward. And there's 2 things in our opinion that will be unsurpassed going forward to help salespeople to sell. One is good manners. It's just basic good manners. And the second one is for organizations to focus on professionalism. And I know professionalism involves a lot of different aspects, but just the word itself is just making sure that salespeople develop the highest standards possible in the way that they engage with other people. And that starts at home and then moves obviously into the workplace. So for me, those 2 are the big ones. Okay, is good manners and professionalism, and build those relationships, because when people trust us and respect us through credibility, they'll never forget us, not even in bad times. So that's my kind of message.
Wow, Mick, I mean, I think what you shared with us emotionally earlier is what we're all feeling inside. And we are, I mean, and thank you for sharing it and being intimate in that moment as well. And, also Susan as well. You shared something specific to you that you've been through, and full credit to you guys for doing that. And thank you guys so much for for also being part of this. And what I love, Mick, is like you said, you've done this for 35 years, and it comes back to good manners. I mean, isn't that a beautiful, almost full circle, completing understanding at how the basics are still so important. And you talked about credibility, and you said, well, what about respect? And Mick, I have huge amounts of respect for you. And every single one of you other trainers we've chatted to tonight as well, I have absolute incredible respect for you guys as well. And thank you so much. We're not quite finished yet. I still want to hear from one or two others. There's still one or two that haven't had a chance to speak yet. And I would like to go back to Australia now to Ian, and to hear what he has to say with regards to the kind of grassroots, what can we do now as a salespeople?
Yeah, a couple of practical tips. I just want to pick up on what Paul was saying about acting as that trusted advisor and leading your customers to the solutions that they might need. And I totally get that. If you know your SAM, your selected available market, really well, and you know their pain points that Bruce was talking to, then you can definitely lead them to 2 or 3 solutions, as Paul was saying. So a couple of tips then when you're doing that, just to ground this and bring it down with some practical tips. Stop frigging submitting quotes and proposals. Just stop it, absolutely. Right? Yeah. You can still submit them, but what I say to every single sales professional out there, and boy, I think it's relevant at the moment, is delete the word proposal from the front page and replace it with suggested action plan. Right? It's a suggested action plan, particularly in times when they need someone to step up and give them some solutions and say, here's the way. So instead of a quote or proposal that's thrown on the pile with the other 2, here's a suggested action plan. So that's something fairly granular and practical. And the other thing, you mentioned, Scotty, about maintaining a good attitude. I think it's an absolute must that when you have a win, because they might be a little few and far between over the next few weeks, particularly, when you have a win, my advice, you absolutely must, it's a not negotiable, you must pick up the phone and reach out to 2 of your existing clients or 2 potential prospects in your target market, because you're in a good mood. You've just had a good win, and people pick up on the energy of a winner. So maintain some momentum off the back of that win and immediately pick up the call, pick up the phone and do some prospecting activity. That would be my suggestion.
That's a great one, Ian. I love that. You know, if you're on a smile, you're on a win, pick up the phone and get 2 referrals. I was going to go to Paul, but I'm going to ask Paul to finish off. I'm going to go to Dan, and there's a reason for that, is because now, Dan, you've only got a couple of minutes, and I want you to talk for the next 7 days non-stop about this, your favorite topic in the whole world. Dan, carry on with what Ian says about the importance of referrals, and especially in this time of humanity.
Yeah, I wanted to, let me just take one quick step back. When a lot of the relationships that I build start out where I might be doing a 2-hour workshop, and then a company may hire me to come in and do 2 days, 3 days, and then it leads to one-on-one coaching and a long-term relationship. And I call those gigs. That's what I call them. And there's 4 reasons why we do a gig. Number 1 is it's a paid gig. Number 2, there could be very influential people in the audience. Number 3, we're educating ourselves, we're honing our skills. Or number 4, maybe we're just paying it forward. And it's that last part I want to talk about for a second, paying it forward. When the you-know-what hits the fan, like it's happening right now, you always know who your real friends are. So I'm sure all of you have raving fan relationships with many of your clients. You're going to blow them away when you're reaching out to them to see how their family is doing. Not just the business, the leads. You're going to stand out. You're going to be way up there. It literally is going to blow them away. So again, the relationship word, we're all human beings. We truly care. And when we get out of this, and we will, they're never going to forget that. So, you know, is there anything I'll call them up and just ask them, is there anything that I can do? It could be anything literally in the world that I can do to help them, or just talk, just have a conversation. So that's really important. I wanted to share that. And now I want to come back to what you said about referrals. How did you phrase the question, Scotty?
Well, exactly like that. Ian was speaking about when you're on a smile and you just had a win, go and chat to 2 other people and share that smile and basically pay it forward. And I know you love the referral idea and that pay it forward idea. So tell us about your favorite topic, your referrals.
Well, I always say, and I've shared this with you, you know, when I'm with a prospect, eyeball to eyeball, belly to belly with somebody, and you know, using, as Susan said, humor, I love to ask them, would you like to know what King Arthur was searching for? Would you like to know what the holy grails of sales are? And the answer is, of course, yes. And it's referrals. The top 1% of every profession, if you could become a Jedi Knight at getting referrals, then you're going to be way up here. And it's not just getting referrals, it's giving referrals. And you have to earn the right to get those referrals. And like all of you, I'm sure we all work with our clients on how to get best practices for getting and giving referrals. It should be habitual, like brushing your teeth. All of us, we should set goals. We, you know, give 2 referrals a week, get 2 referrals a week. If we forgot to do this over the years because we get so used to what we're doing, you know, we need to go back and revisit that, like a handwritten thank you note. Go back to the things that always worked. The best time to ask somebody for a referral is right after they compliment you. And some of the statistics have shown that 90% of our clients would willingly give us a referral if we asked, but only 10% of us ever do. Yeah. It's crazy. So the reason for that is people are, you know, like, gee whiz, I don't want them to think that I'm struggling. I don't want them to think that I'm being piggy, you know, help me out, SOS. But nothing can be further from the truth in that regard. People love to help you, especially if you create these raving fan relationships with them. Mm-hmm. And honestly, be a giver. I've been known to show up at a prospect's place of business. I've vetted them. I know all about them. I'm hoping to earn the right to have a serious conversation with them, which doesn't happen instantly. There's the bonding and rapport. There's all of those levels of commonality that we're looking at, things of that nature. But I'll actually have a referral for them in my back pocket. And not all the time, but many times, I might have something that I think would be very useful for them. And it's just a great way to break the ice. And I won't give it to them right away. It might be at the end of the meeting, but trust me, people remember that. If there's one thing I say today that I hope all of you take away, that little pearl of wisdom, it might be this: people remember the little things that you do in life. You know, the reason I go to the bank down the street is because when I get my receipt, they put a little dog biscuit in the thing that comes back for my dog. That's why I go to that bank. It's not because I get a good rate on my mortgage or anything like that. It's those little tiny things that people do, those little relationships. So bottom line, if you know, I know the world is crazy right now, but when things get back to normal, I'm hoping within the next 3 to 4 weeks, good Lord willing, knock on wood, practice your referral skills, practice giving, practice receiving, set goals, make it habitual. I could talk for 6 hours about this subject, but just I know. Really good at it. Just become really good at it. Yeah. Start with giving. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dan. We're going to finish off with Paul now, and then I'm going to do something a little bit unprecedented. You know, my staff have been on here on this journey with you guys tonight, and they're feeling it just as much as you are. You know, from a personal perspective, you know, what they're going through with their families in the world. And at the end of the day, you know, I would really like to hear from them, and maybe you guys, you know, that's Ruan and Hester and Cherie, just prepare like 60 seconds of after Paul is finished, and just tell us what you kind of learned from this today. I'd just love to hear you guys comment. You don't have to if you don't want to. I'm certainly not going to force you. Maybe what we will do is start with Cherie and then go to Hester and then Ruan if you want. But in the meantime, Paul, bring it home for us.
Well, let me bring it home. Let me say, look, guys, I think everything everybody said has value. Yeah, so let's just kind of run through it a little bit and just kind of really ram home some of these points. You're already successful as a salesperson, or if you're new in, you can be successful as a salesperson. The way to do that is to be professional in your approach, to carry on. So replicate what you were doing when you were doing your calling, when you're visiting the face-to-face, or as Dan says, the belly-to-belly stuff. I like that expression, Dan. Replicate that at home. You've got to introduce your discipline. You've got to be professional. And you know what? A large percentage of your competitors are not going to be able to do that. They're not going to have the self-motivation and discipline to do that. So you're already differentiating yourself by introducing those disciplines and being professional. And your customers, your clients are going to pick those vibes up when they interact with you. Personalize. I think everybody's talked about that. Dan certainly talked about personalizing. Make it personal. You know, ask about them, ask about their family, and genuinely be interested. Don't just ask about it, genuinely be interested, yeah? You've got to graft, you've got to work, you've got to make those calls, yeah? This isn't going to happen for you. You've got to graft. You know, when I came to Singapore in 2007, I got off the plane, the world went into recession. Yeah, I'm sitting there, I'm phoning people, they're saying to me, hey, don't you realize there's a recession, you know? I'm saying, well, no, I just wanted to say hi, I'm the new guy on the block, boy on the block. You know, you've got to make those calls. You've got to sit there. You've got to have that discipline to make those calls. Your competitors are not going to do it. They might do it for the first few days, maybe a couple of weeks. They're going to drop out. You've got to make those calls, okay? Now, the other thing, and we haven't really talked about this too much, we talked about the mental attitude. The other thing I wanted to make a point about here is you've got to keep healthy, not just mentally healthy, but you've got to keep healthy. So I know I'm not your mother, but I'm going to tell it to you straight. You've got to eat. Yeah, you've got to drink water, okay? You've got to get some sleep. Yeah, you've got to take a break and look after yourself. You've got to look after your body. You know, sometimes when you're making your phone calls, don't just sit, stand up and make your phone calls. Yeah, you've got to keep healthy. And that way, you know, you're going to stay on top of your game and you're going to be successful and you're going to get through this. And the others, your competitors are not doing the kind of things that these guys have been talking about, are going to be in trouble. They're going to be falling by the wayside.
Wow, guys, it's been such a special evening. And hopefully, you know, as Mick alluded to, and I agree, Mick, the first of many, you know, and I just love it again, you guys, and you've just done it, Paul. You kind of, all this experience that you guys have, and you always come back to the basics and how the basics are still not being done. And right now you need to do them. I'm not going to go over them again. You guys have done such a great job. You know, we'll construct another, hopefully another conversation with all of you guys again soon. And just really, you know, get to grips with some of the more finer details of how you actually do those things. But it's been a very, very special time, guys, a very, very special time. And thank you. And as you know, our focus, you know, doing the basics in terms of you're at home, you can prospect. You have LinkedIn in front of you. You've got social media. You've got WhatsApp. You can prospect like you've never prospected in your life before. I know you're scared. I know it's different. And I know you're going to go, oh my gosh, do I have to get my LinkedIn profile sorted out now? Yes. Drink water, get LinkedIn sorted out. Same basic fundamental principles. Smile, those kind of things. It's been absolutely amazing, guys. And as promised, very quickly, I can see Hester is looking like she wants to go first. So, Ruan, you don't have to. If you are ready, just jump on after Hester, and then maybe Cherie can finish off. But very quickly, Hester, you head up the kind of client service side of the Madge3.com company. How did you find the last hour and a half?
Guys,
and please put your video on.
I have let me put my video on so you can see me. I'll look like the Oracle with the window behind me. Here I am. It has been absolutely amazing, and I'm sitting with my trigger finger ready to send a circle message that this has given me goosebumps, because I've taken so much of what you've said, and actually it's none of it's rocket science, but just to hear it from you guys, you're the professionals. You guys know what you're talking about. I can take so much of what you've said and really implement it in our own business from a customer care perspective. And I'm going to be picking up the phone and phoning my clients, and I'm going to talk them off the ledge. So thank you so much for this. It's really a privilege to work with you guys. Really, it is. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Hester. Ruan?
Hi guys. Sorry, my camera isn't working, so you'll have to. I don't know why my photo isn't there like usual, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, I agree. With Hester and with Mick, I also got a bit emotional. Having all you experts from all over the work together and in a positive attitude and everything. Yeah, I must say I do absolutely agree with that. Not only with sales, with anything in life, your attitude is everything. And yeah, I'm very excited. I'm super excited about actually what we can accomplish together in the near future. I'm not really worried at all. I hope the annoyance goes away soon, but in the end, I think we're all going to prevail. I actually think we're going to come out better. Yeah, and I must say I love the bit that was it Enns said, because there was a time that I was in sales, thinking of getting back into it with Majestic now, obviously. And they also taught us that if you had a deal, you should push for the rest of the day, because you're on a high already. You know, you got to cash in on that emotional state that you're in at the moment. And it so often happened that if I close the first deal on a day, that's the day when you get another one on another two. So yeah, I love that bit. Just cash in on the vibes. You don't know when it's going to come again. And doesn't matter how attitude you, that's a real deal. It's a real attitude shift that happens. Yeah, and the referral thing also. That's a very, very important thing. We were those times when you go back to the office and you get asked for referrals, you were actually in trouble with the boss. You know, it's something that you have to do, and yeah, I don't know why people forget to do that. I don't think you seem desperate when you do that. It's a normal thing to do. Yeah, no, super excited about the road forward with all of you guys.
Thank you, Ruan. And just to finish off, Cherie, I'm going to mute so you can talk.
Okay. I think it's going to echo.
I'll just turn it off. That's all right.
But can you guys hear me? Because I don't have the mic and I'm actually on mute.
Yeah, I can hear you.
What was the question again?
Okay, you guys can hear. Okay, good.
What was the question? Just
what did you learn from today? How was the experience? Just quickly, what did you learn?
I think I'm going to actually start crying if it's been, it's just been amazing. When Scott started this program about 2-3 months ago, and the idea came to him, and genius brainwave, I never realized how amazing it would actually be. So from my point of view, just working with such amazing people, and not just because you are really good at what you do and in the sales aspect of things, just brilliant people. Some of the conversations I've had with you guys you are genuinely amazing, down to earth, funny, cool, just lovely, lovely people to work with. And I think what I've learned from this is we've got a shit hot team here, guys. Like flip. That is like, if we can't change the world, at least our own little world, with the people that we outreach with, what we all have here, no one can. Love you.
Okay, got mute and just jumping back on with the session. Guys, thank you so much.
Can I make one more point before we go?
Oh, yes.
I just remembered. Another thing that Mick said that I can't remember where I saw it. I read it in one of your articles or everything, that I think applies to salespeople. If you don't have your life sorted out, your personal life, your home life, and your spiritual life and everything, then then it's going to be difficult to sell to people because it comes across, or you just can't get the energy across, and that's quite that kind of hit home. Yeah, you got to get your personal life, got to get your personal shit in order. Yeah, that kind of hit home, Mick.
Thank you, guys. Everybody, thank you so much. It's been absolutely amazing. If you want to jump on, I'm going to just, because the recording will end now, so I'm going to jump off the Zoom. If any of you guys just want to jump on just to say thanks and everything, we can have a little discussion afterwards. But once again, it's an absolute honor. It's a privilege. I really hope this is not the last time we do it. I think we need to do this more often. And let's have a discussion afterwards. or some of you guys have got to go to bed. It's late, but yeah, I'd love to have that conversation with you. But once again, everybody, let's make this positive and make it happen.